We share. Oh, take a ride with me.
I am Pastor Benjamin Yemson Nuhu, the fourth child of 4 children and the last. I am married, have a wife and a child, and I currently reside in Kaduna State, northern Nigeria. I become emotional anytime I share my story, the struggles I had from a child till I became an adult. I was born in the military barracks. I had a father who was an Air Force officer. Life was smooth and good until one fatal dark night I never want to remember. My father led a troop to Liberia in 1990 and sustained bullet shots. He was rushed back to Nigeria. My mother was in the market in a shop. A fellow quarters mate informed her of the news going around in the barracks. Confused, my mother entered her car, drove straight, and met her accident just at Oshodi Bridge, heading back to St. Etnan Barracks. My mother died before my father. The episode and the incident happened within the space of 7 days. So I lost my father, my sister, and my mother in the space of 7 days. Having lived in the city, we were whisked back to the village. Love was shown to us for the few number of days, as long as there were friends visiting around. My nightmare began the day every other person disappeared, and I was left with my father's family. Coming from the city where I have uncles and aunts who attend to me, found myself in the village where I struggled to survive. For 3 good years, I walked on barefoot. My siblings were dispatched to uncles, but I was left in my father's house. I was left to stay with my father's uncle. I grew up in a family that has more than 16 boys, where you have to struggle to eat from the same plate. And sometimes, because you have no parents, you might go to bed with an empty tummy. I was denied school for 3 years. The day I managed to go and write common entrance examination, a woman who knew my parents very well risked her life because my family wouldn't take it from anybody who wanted to assist. I ate chaff for 3 years. I slept on the bare floor for 3 years. I was told nothing good was going to come out of me. I was maligned. My uncle's children will go to school while I go to farm. Sometimes in the night I have to steal their books to read just to keep abreast with learning. Until one day, a good Samaritan opted to help. So because my father came from a polygamous family, and his mother had actually left his father's house while he was still very tender to marry elsewhere my father's brothers from the other community heard of my predicament and decided to come give me help. I was relocated from my father's village to this new community. Life suddenly became sweet until I decided to become a Christian. My nightmare continued because it was an unpopular religion I was bringing home. I was in SS3 that fateful year. I remember the uncle who was so loving suddenly turned to an enemy. I lost the chance to write my West African examination cancel simply because I chose to become a Christian. The predicament I had in my father's house repeated itself. I was pushed out of the house. My room was turned to a herd of goats. I ran from friend to friend to survive. I became ostracized. I became an outcast. My uncle told me nothing good will ever come out from me. For the fact that I've chosen the religion of Christ, I've chosen to become a Christian, it was a struggle. I remembered being poisoned once just because I became a Christian. Fortunately for me, I ate and I'm alive. I never knew the food was poisoned, but I was seen as an outcast. The best way to get rid of me was to feed me with a poisonous food. The scripture was fulfilled that day on the 16th of May, the year 2003, when after I ate that poisoned food, I slept and you were waiting, hoping I'll wake up dead. Unfortunately, I was the first to come out of the house that day. I was never hospitalized. I was never given any drug. My cousin's sister actually came crying the next morning. Your food was poisoned. I tried everything to put the food away, but I was denied the access. I wish I could tell you your food was poisoned, but thank God you are alive. Life became very difficult. Since I couldn't die as a result of the poison, I have to leave home. I started fending for myself from street to street. I hawked, I farmed, I did crazy things just to survive. Under the sun, in the rain. Until I met someone who was discussing with me thinking I was just but an ordinary beggar. But from his conversation with me, he understood I could speak English in that remote village. And he asked of my story. And I told him I was smuggled out of that community to go and write the West African examination. To the glory of God, that one sitting yielded the best result. He has done his best. Who would ever thought of assisting me? I returned back to faith and decided to return back to my father's village. In this community, the children of those that were sent to school at this point in time have run out of school. The young girls in the house became pregnant at teenage age. Struggling in my father's farm. I remember farming with my own hands. At the time of harvest, everything was taken. I struggled to get to the brethren in Kafanchan. Meeting the brethren there in Kafanchan in northern part of Nigeria, I met with a man I saw like an angel. His name is, and I still reserve a very big part of my story of success to him. His name is Nuhu Kimba. Wherever you are, sir, may the Lord bless you. This man heard of my story and decided he was going to give me a leap. He was resourceful in my getting admission to the Polytechnic. Started, first time I got to the Polytechnic to study mechanical engineering. Life was not easy. In the little he had, he assisted me until I could pull through. By the grace of God, my Polytechnic days were mixtures of bitter and sweet experience, because even my own siblings abandoned me at some point in time because of my faith. In the Polytechnic, I met a Christian family, the Fellowship of Christian Students, that became a family away from home. I met a couple of friends, Biodun, Lekon, Grace, Martins, Daniel. Wherever you are, God bless you, who will share from their own school fees to pay my school fees. God helping me, I finished with an upper credit. From there, I had a call to become a pastor because I felt I needed to reach out to my community. I needed to speak the light of the truth to my community. Suddenly, my family members started returning. Because at this point in time, I had a certificate. Indeed, the stone that the builder rejected perfectly fit into the chief cornerstone. It is the Lord's doing, and it was marvelous. One of the first person to reach out to me was my immediate elder brother. Now that I had a path to trail, the family was willing to come assist me. They wanted me to study medicine. Struggling between leaving engineering for medicine, I had no option. I accepted since the family has welcomed me back again. I went to Maiduguri, started studying medicine and surgery. In my third year, I had a sleepless night. I had a struggle. I felt God was calling me. There was a crisis in the school that saw so many of my colleagues dead. I was smuggled out of Maiduguri, which is in the northeastern part of Nigeria, back to Kaduna State alive. And that marks the end of my studies of medicine. Fortunately, when I got home, a pastor by name Yohana Musa Dangana, who has been resourceful in my becoming a Christian, invited me over to meet with a group of pastors. And after a discussion, I was asked if I would mind to be an evangelist. I obliged, even though my family wasn't happy because I had left medicine. Their pride was for me to become a medical doctor. I prayed, if it is the will of God, let it be so. Accepting to become a minister opened up again another page of persecution in my life. The family I've gathered decided to throw me out again. At this point in time, the church was there to care for me. And I appreciate the church for the role it played. Somehow, my older sister found a way to get back in touch with me and was asking me to go on further if I don't want to continue with medicine. My entire family returned back again with strong pressure. Go back to school. I had a struggle. That time, I was an evangelist in Bida. Bida is in Niger State, north central part of Nigeria. I dreaded coming home because anytime I get home, I'll be reminded of how much of a peasant, how much of a lost hope I was. Until my local overseer, Pastor Ademo Anana, encouraged me to move on. His encouragement was timely. He helped me reposition my mind to know that there is nothing impossible with me. I came for a minister's conference and the secretary of the mission got talking to me and was asking me if I was interested in going to school. The mission I belonged to had a popular university in Nigeria called Babcock University. I knew how expensive it was, so there was no hope to go to Babcock University. But the work of the mission secretary and my local overseer got me encouraged. I applied, but I was told there were 10 persons qualified to go to school that year, and they will be sent to school on first come, first serve. And I was just barely some few years into the ministry. I went back home, cried, and Pastor Adamu Anana told me, if God has called you, God will meander with you through the turbulent waters. I was home one day and I was told, out of the 10, 7 have withdrawn their interest. Only 3 are left. And so, the space opened for sponsorship is just for 2 pastors. And even at that, I was still the last. I went back, prayed. While I was praying that very evening, the mission secretary gave me a call. Congratulations, the mission has voted to send you to school on the condition that you write the joint admission and matriculation board examination and meet the requirements for admission. I put in my best, wrote that entrance exams. That was in the year 2009. The exams came out well. I had a total score of 321. I wrote the entrance exams and I had 93 over 100. And so the first admission came out in Babcock University, and to the glory of God, I was shortlisted. Someone I hold very dear, Pastor Audu, called me. Sunday Didam Audu, the present dean of the student development, Babcock University, called me. Then he was a lecturer in the Department of Religious Studies. He congratulated me and told me, your story has only begun. You need to make history for yourself, for the church, and you need to prove to the world that not having parents is not a yardstick to become a miscreant in the street. If you cannot do it now, then your story will forever remain in the list of the stories of failed achievement. I went to Babcock University. I don't know what a first class is. I was only afraid of having a carryover because I had an experience with carryover. Giving my best to study. To the glory of God, I graduated from Babcock University in the year 2013 with the overall best graduating student for the year, backed up with the VC's award. That very year, God opened up a door for me because I was given a job placement by Chevron. But for the fact that Pastor Audu told me, you are a minister, I returned back home and served God. It was turned down, and I never regretted not taking up that job. Every time I sit back and I look at the chains of medals through the grace of God I acquired in Babcock University, sometimes I weep, wishing my parents are alive. This is what I have turned back to be. I've turned out to be. There are times I cried in my parents' grave, even as an adult, wishing my parents were alive. But sometimes I thank God that my parents died while I was quite young. Possibly I wouldn't have been a Christian. Possibly I would have been a child of God. Possibly I would have been one of those Balak boys that have been exposed to hard life. Here am I today, ministering, leading a church of over 600 members. Today, in my father's house, in my community, I am the only person with a master's degree and hoping to acquire a PhD in no distant time. It's a story mixed up with tears, struggles, dedication, perseverance, and commitment. Indeed, no one is an orphan, just like the Hausa proverb said, except the one that refuses to work. During my youth service, I met with Mr. Sheyu, who listened to my story that was aired in Unilag FM, University of Lagos, Nigeria FM. And someone decided to sponsor my story, that I should put it in a writing. The book will soon be published. The title is Cut Those Excuses. When there is life, there is possibility. It could only be God. If not for God, I wouldn't have been here. So I'm speaking to encourage those that have given up on themselves because they were exposed to difficult conditions and situations. I'm speaking out to encourage those that are still passing through the same pit I went through, who feels hope is gone, to hold on and keep on moving. There will always be light at the end of the tunnel if they don't give up. For more of these my life stories, look out for the book Cut Those Excuses. God bless you and remain blessed. Keep on keeping on until Jesus returns. Thank you.